Hi everyone, and today I'm going to show you how to start making the front cover and the matching back cover of your journal. Now this is already half done, and this is the point that I got up to, and I've gone in to edit my video, and unfortunately my whole file has corrupted. So I'm going to show you how I achieved this effect, but I'm going to be doing it onto a canvas instead. So this is what we're going to be achieving, and this is the unfinished. This is the next step is day 2, so I'm just going to take you up to day 1. So here's the front and here's the back. So let's begin. So what we need is some ready mix filler or spackle, something to spread that with, a stencil to spread it through. I've got some lace, some skeletal leaves, anything basically to add texture underneath and about. I've got paper flowers, I've got bits of failed castings on resin and fiber, polymer clay, that kind of thing, bits of metal that I've been given that I don't really like, all kinds of bits and pieces, and basically junk that I can't see myself using in any other project. And most of this has been given, or it's failed castings of something. So to begin with, I want to work out where I'm going to actually put my collage. So on the original we've done the front and the back, so the front wants to mirror the back, but the front wants to be larger. So on the front I'm going to collage up with all of my bits, something around this much. So to mirror it up on the back we do a much smaller and something more around there. So whatever you do on the front you want to mirror on the back but make it smaller. Obviously it's the back, so it needs to lay flatter, so you need to keep that in mind when you're doing the back. Okay, so to begin with I'm taking my filler and I'm taking my stencil, and because I've marked out roughly where I'm going, I know what I'm going to be doing. So taking a generous amount, I'm going to roughly follow that line. And because it's mostly going to get covered up, I only need to do the outside edge. I don't need to worry about this bit or this bit because these are all going to be covered up. Okay, I'm completely done with that now. To clean up your stencil, it is really simple. You just need a baby wipe, or put it in a tub of water. So that's clean enough for me. Don't need it to be immaculately clean. So I'm just going to give that a quick dry. Okay, the next thing I need to do is to set up the base. So the base is going to be lace, and I've got this really lovely lace, which unfortunately is this horrible green colour that kind of reminds me a bit like baby puke. So I'm going to just work out where I want to put this, and I want these to be just sticking out a little bit. And I do want to go over the edge, just like I did with the front cover of the book. And again, this bit is going to be fully collaged up, so it doesn't matter about there. It doesn't need to be there. So I'm just using my quick dry adhesive, and I'm just going to put these down where I want them. These will get properly pressed down later, so I don't need to be too worried about the amount of adhesive that I'm using at the moment. Okay, the next thing I want to do is build up my flowery base, and I've got some flowers here. Lots of flowers. I want to start off big, end up small. So again, I'm going to my quick dry, and I'm just gonna roughly guess where I want them. And even though it is quick dry adhesive, it does give you long enough to work it, move it about, ooh, change what you need to. I don't like to overthink what I'm doing. If you overthink it, then you start messing about with it, and it's not going to look like it's a spur of the moment thing, which is what you're wanting it to look like. So remember, when you're doing this on your front, you are mirroring it and doing it on your back also. So whatever you do on your front, put on your back. So do your front cover, do your lace, do your back cover, do your lace. Do your front cover, do your flowers, do your back cover, do your flowers. And if you keep on working like that, it'll all match and look well together. So whatever you put on the front, put on the back. Okay, I'm going into bigger flowers now. We're getting further forward, and I'm going to be putting in some actual full flowers. And just working my way where I feel it needs tucking under. I'm just going to tuck it under. Where I feel I need it pulling forward, I'll just pull it forward, because I'm just gluing little bits and connecting them together. Tiger's a bit miffed today because her brother has taken her spot in the window. So she's annoying me, so I'll move him. Keep going. But I'm not moving him because he's poorly. So that's not happening, is it, Angel? Hey. So now she's going to annoy me. And she's going to try run off with stuff. She's going to try nick stuff. Yeah. So I'm just filling in any gaps with smaller flowers, which I think fit in, and where I think we need some. You're not going to need them everywhere, just go with your gut. You'll see a hole and you'll realise that something needs to go in it. It's very much gut feeling on this. Now, I'm quite liking that. I'm thinking that that is plenty for my flowery layer. So let's have a closer look. So you can see what's left of the stenciling. It's very, very subtle. So, I mean, you could skip that bit if you don't have any stencils. You could quite easily skip that bit, or you could create texture with something else. And then I've got my flowers all going off the edge. And it's coming together quite nicely. I'm going to give that a quick blast with a heat tool to dry it and set it a little bit so they don't flop about as much. Do be careful if you're heating this sort of lace with a heat tool, because it is a rayon-y, plasticky type lace and it will shrink with heat. Okay, so I think I'm done with my lace and my flowers for now, so I'm just going to put them to one side and keep them out just in case. So the next thing I need to do is to fit in some interest, which is where I'm going to go with metal. And I've got this really cool lock and key, and I want to stick that on, and obviously because I'm going into bigger pieces and heavier pieces, I need to be using my super heavy gel. Or heavy gel. You don't need the super heavy like I went over in the supplies video. The heavy gel is perfectly fine. And heavy gel is probably better actually. Okay. So I'm going to use a spatula. Now this is a woman and she faces this way. I'm not sure if she'll go on that collage, to be fair. My key will go nicely. My block hole even, not the keyhole. I think will go nicely right there. So let's get a big chunk of gel on that. And then I'm going to wedge that half under some flowers, but above others. I've got this circle stud type thing with a hole in it, quite like that. That'll wedge in somewhere just to make a cool little piece of interest. I've got this buckle. So I'm gonna again wedge that in somewhere, create a bit of interest. And this is a resin casting, so I'm going to cut this up because it's quite big on its own. These scissors, by the way, they are tonic shears, are absolutely fantastic. They'll cut through, as you can see, resin, and this is fully cured resin. They'll cut through pretty much anything. Metal, easily goes through metal, like butter. This one will look good peeking out from under these flowers. So all of the bits of stuff, and I mean, you don't have to like it. I mean, some of these flowers, the colours are awful, but because of what we're doing, we can get really nice design out of them, because on their own they're nice, it's just the colours that are pretty rubbish. Okay, I'll find somewhere to wedge this last bit in. Now, this is a huge brad, so I'm just gonna cut off the metal sides. Add a nice bit of gel to it. And stick that in somewhere. Quite like that on top of that flower there. Now I need some buttons to finish off. I always cut buttons off garments before I sew them away, and I've always got a big stash of buttons. Little ones are great for just sticking out in the wilderness. Try some more little ones. Okay, so I'm gonna put buttons in flower centers because they are flowers, so they do still want to look like flowers. Your mind tells you it's a flower, but it's not got a center, so it'll look a bit odd. No, don't like that there. So on the back you would have this and these little buttons that you've placed the same way, reaching towards the front ones. So I think that looks pretty good to me. Very busy, lots of interest. Oh, missed that one. We need something for that one. Let's shove one of these big pearls in. And a little pearl down here. And that is looking really good to me. So I'm going to put my lid on. So you can see how it's built up. It is completely up to you when you stop how much you put on, but just make sure you stay within your boundary, and you want the most of your stuff to be centered in the middle, and it wants to get lighter as it goes further out, kind of like a hand. If you see, you've got your main part of your hand and then it goes out smaller. And you should end up with something that looks a little bit like that. If you're really struggling for embellishments, please let me know. More than happy to send you some. Obviously, if you're in the UK, it'll be harder if you're in America because it's going to take you a couple of weeks to get there. But if you've really not got anything in America and you can't go and get anything from the junk shop, then please do let me know and I will sort something out for you. Not a problem at all. Okay, next thing what I need to do is let this dry for an hour or two, or heat it and speed it up with your heat tool, and then we'll go on to the next step. So I'm just going to clean this up, clean up my desk and get ready for my next step, and here we go. Okay, I've tidied everything up and I'm dry enough that I'm quite happy to continue on to the next step. Stuff's not moving around. I've heated it a little bit and I've waited about an hour for it to be at this point. So I'm going to be using golden gesso and I'm going to be using white gesso. You could do this in black or you could do this in white, depending on how you want your final to look. So I'm going to use a white one. If you don't have gesso, you can get an extra tub and mix some white acrylic paint with a bit of baby powder, talcum powder, baby powder, whatever you like to call it, and make sure you just mix it in really, really well. And only a little bit, like a dessert spoonful of baby powder would quite happily do that much gesso. So you're just wanting to add a little bit into it just to give it a chalky substance, basically. So I'm going to take a damp brush and start gessoing. Basically, that's the ins and outs of it. I'm going to go under the lace, make sure I'm going well under, and go on top of the lace. And as you're doing this, the gesso will actually stick down the lace for you. Where it goes off the edges, I'm not folding it over, I'm leaving it just as is, but I am going to paint on top of it. So if you put skeleton leaves on, you'll do the same thing for the skeleton leaves. You paint all over them. And then lift them back up. So make sure you do go over everything every nook and cranny and make sure you give everything a good coat. If you can go over it, go over it. If you can go under it, go under it. And just make sure you get in absolutely everywhere, and anything that you want to be sticking up, make sure you lift it back up like I did with that, otherwise it will be pretty much glued down by the gesso. But really simple. You might need to give it 2 coats depending on how dark your bases are. Like this flower is pretty dark, so it's probably going to need 2 coats. This flower again is pretty bright, this blue, so it's probably going to need 2 coats again. But you want to go over absolutely everything and cover it all really well. Again, don't forget to go under and make sure you go over, and make sure you wiggle your brush into every little gap that there is. So what you're aiming for is this. Okay, I've given this particular pink flower about 3 coats now, and the colour is still showing through. So I'm just going to have to live with that one. That's just how it goes sometimes. So once you've done all this, you need to set it to dry and leave it for a good few hours. Make sure it's fully dry, make sure all the glue is dry, and your best bet is to come back the next day to be triply sure. So I will be back tomorrow showing you how to paint this beauty up. See you tomorrow. Bye.